Hey, entrepreneur, business owner, marketer, have you made your first six-figure year yet? If you have, how did it make you feel? If you have not, what's keeping you from doing that? In today's episode of Strategy Talk, we talk with a 25-year-old two-time entrepreneur who'll be sharing the 4 steps it took him to get there. If you're ready for Strategy Talks, come on and join us.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Here's your host, Doreen Morin-van.
Hey, everybody. My name is Doreen Morin-van, and welcome back to another episode of Strategy Talks. I'm so glad you're here with us today. If you're live, please let us know in the comment where you're watching us. If you're on YouTube or maybe on Facebook or perhaps you're on LinkedIn, let us know in the comments. And for those of you who listen to Strategy Talks as a podcast, a special welcome to you as well. Without much further ado, I love always bringing my guests right onto the stage with me so you get to meet them and we get as much time together as we can. So welcome, Ryan Atkinson.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I love that intro with like the music and everything. That was awesome. That had me smiling backstage.
I know. It sets the stage for what we're going to talk about, right? Strategy. And let's dive right in. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. You're a 25-year-old two-time entrepreneur. We're going to talk about getting to that first 100K, the first six-figure year, right? So, and I want to dive into ideas and all that stuff about entrepreneurship, but let's start with a roadmap. You told me you have 4 steps to going from 0 to 100K. And I'm sure our listeners, those who are watching with us today, are curious about how you did that and what lessons we can learn. So, Ryan, what are the first 4? What are the 4 steps? Not the first 4, the 4 steps that we need to take to get there as well.
Yeah, I feel like the first 100,000 for like any entrepreneur is like, that's a humongous milestone. I know when we like reached it in year 1, it was like, oh my gosh, this is like an actual like business and like this is actual like real, like I can actually live off of this. So the first 100K is like it's a huge milestone. So you should definitely be proud of it. If we are getting to our first 100K, we do 4 steps and we can talk about each one in depth, but I'll just kind of give a high level overview to start.
Sure.
Those 4 steps are 1, get a list from a platform like Upwork for Fiverr. You get like 500 contacts for like $50, 10 cents a contact, very cheap. You're then going to want to do some sort of email marketing on them, just cold emails at scale. So an automation platform like Instantly works great. Your 3rd step is going to be to actually cold call the same list as well. And then to butter it all together, you can go through LinkedIn Helper, which is a LinkedIn tool, and hit them with the same messaging. So you're hitting these 500 contacts in 3 different ways. And yeah, definitely happy. That's a very, very high level, and happy to talk about each step of those a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, let's get into that. So you're talking about getting a list of people that are your target audience.
Yep.
How do you decide who to get on that list? And I am sure people are watching this and going, isn't that cheating? How do you go about buying or purchasing a list? Is that from a reputable place? Is that something that people have consented to that are on those lists? Let's talk about the ethics a little bit of that.
Yeah. So you can definitely do it through Upwork. There's also data tools like Apollo.io that I know will scrape contacts for you. From a straight cost effective and like hands-off way, I would recommend going to Upwork. And so you're definitely going to need your ICP. So before you even do all this, like you need to know who your ideal client profile is. Is it a SaaS? Is it someone that works in software? Is it someone that works in health tech? Is it someone that works in consumer goods? I don't know. Whatever that person you're targeting, what's their employee size? What's that revenue size? What are the targets you're going after? So you really need to know that before you even get started with outbound, I would say, or you need to at least test it. But basically, once you go onto a platform like Upwork, you can just hire someone overseas in the Philippines or so to basically say, hey, we have we're going after titles like marketing director, VP of marketing at employee size 11 to 50 employees. They need to work within the software industry, and we need their email and LinkedIn URL. From there, you can find people that are going to do it for 10 cents a contact, 15 cents a contact. And that's really building out your first like list per se. Ethics wise, definitely have like an unsubscribe button at the bottom. There's a whole list on making sure you're like GDPR compliant and all that stuff. So I can't speak about that in too depth because I'm not knowledgeable. We have an unsubscribe button at the bottom. If you don't want to be there, just let us know. But from an Upwork perspective, you can get your ideal customer profile for like 10 cents a contact.
Right. So you wouldn't suggest emailing the whole list all at once. You do an individual outreach to those contacts.
So that's the next step. And as an entrepreneur, I mean, we're always thinking about like, what's the best way to spend my time here? So if you use a platform like Instantly, you can take those 500 contacts, or let's just start out with 100 contacts. You can build out specific sequences and like email templates to send to them in an automatic way. So you're not having to reach out to those 100 contacts manually. You can set up like a 5-step sequence where you're automatically sending them emails, like every day, every other day, however you want to do it. That's the cadence that we use at Spacebar Visuals, is putting them in Instantly. And I'll give everyone the secret on our messaging here of what we use. So we use something called the 4T template. And these 4 T's are, and we use these at HubSpot. This is what HubSpot uses when I work there. So your 4 T's are: 1, truth. What is something that is true about the person you're reaching out to? I saw you're a marketing director. The second one is think. Like many other marketing directors, like how are you you're probably planning for Q3. Like what are some of your initiatives for Q3? Something to get them to think.
Yep.
And then your third T is third-party evaluation. We're working with other companies like Datadog, AWS to do XYZ benefit. And then your fourth T is talk. Are you interested in a conversation? So you're asking them to speak. So a lot there. That's the messaging we use for those automated emails though.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. So I've definitely seen those come to my inbox, and most of the time they're not very targeted, right? So let's be honest. It sounds like you are doing a lot of work that you're doing it right. But I've also been cold emailed with emails that address me wrong, that assume I'm not a marketer. They know I'm a business owner, but they forgot to check that I'm a marketer.
Yeah.
They're doing some things that I'm like, no, unsubscribe, right? So you want to make sure that you know who's on your list and you understand the outreach part of that. I am very interested. I forgot that you had told me that you worked at HubSpot. So this is definitely something that it's not something that you necessarily are doing on your own. Other people are also doing the cold emailing and the cold outreach. And if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you can raise your hand. I know you've gotten these pitches, right? I actually am receiving a lot of them right now about podcasting. I get a lot of cold pitches. People want to be on this show. And so only those who've done their homework are getting a response. The other ones don't. So let's assume you've got a really good list. You start that sequence. What was the third piece to this?
So the third piece as well. So that same list, you're going to want to cold call them as well. Either if you're in your early days of business, like you have to make cold calls. That is like just the cold hard truth of getting to your first 100K. It is scrappy. It is nitty gritty. You are grinding for that first $100,000. So the third step is this. So as that same list that you're sending emails to, also be calling these people. So you can do it. You can hire a BDR to do it. You can hire someone to do it. If it's you, you're going to be calling the same list and just basically saying like, hey, sending you a few emails. There's a bunch of cold call tactics you can use, but it's just another touch point for this person to like, be like, oh, I've seen this person has actually sent me like 3 emails before, and like they're calling me as well. So within 2 weeks, you could probably get 6 to 8 touch points on a person. And that's just with the first 2 steps. So that third step would be then to actually make cold calls to that same exact list.
Right. All right. So somebody who's not comfortable in sales, right? They're watching this. They want to get to 100K. They don't like the sales call, but they might be willing to learn. What can you tell us about that piece? Like, Short and sweet. You leave a voicemail. How many times do you call? And what are you expecting out of that? Are you just having them get the voicemail if they don't answer, so they've had that extra touch point? What is the goal of that?
So the goal is to connect with them and book a meeting. That's essentially the end goal of it. If you can't though, if they're missing them and you have voicemails, I always leave a voicemail just because it is a touch point. It actually puts a voice to a human. It's very rare that I don't leave a voicemail. Now we have a BDR that does this now for us, but when I was calling for Spacebar, I would always leave voicemails. But the end goal is to get them on the call, be short and sweet. An opener that I like to use is hey, speaking to other marketing directors in the space, a lot of them are wanting to do video, but they don't have the resources. They don't have the time to actually do it themselves, but they want to do it. Just curious if any of this resonates with you, just to kind of get them talking. And then it's what are the pain points? And it's oh, well, actually we help with all of this. Let's set up time. So the goal of any outbound sequence is to set up a meeting. That's at the end of their day in sales. That's the goal. And then definitely if you get them on a call, cold calling is not dead. We book a ton of calls each month through cold calling. So lean into cold calling. It is uncomfortable, but if you're going to grow a business, that's something that you want to do, be comfortable making cold calls and eventually to do it.
Hey, I think it's great. I've never had anybody on here. It's a strategy, right? That's what we're talking about. It's a strategy. Yeah. We're talking about business strategy right now, sales strategy. You're telling us that cold calling works, that you're booking appointments, and obviously you're getting business from it. If you're watching this and you've attempted it, maybe try these steps that Ryan's laying out. If you are worried about how to do this, listen to some of the voicemails that people have left you, right? Yeah. And figure out if that's something that you might be comfortable leaving a similar one, or which one you like the most, or if you've responded to a cold call, why did you respond, right? Think back. So kind of reverse engineer of what made you either answer the phone or what made you absolutely book something. So Ryan, once that's done, I remember a step 4, you were saying reach out on LinkedIn. So how does that work?
Yeah, so similar messaging really to what you're emailing them. There's a platform, I'm sure there's multiple. The ones that we use is called LinkedIn Helper. It's $15 a month. And what that can do is automated messages through LinkedIn to basically the same audience. Because you have their LinkedIn URL from that list that you got originally, you can just plug it into LinkedIn Helper and just basically do the same message. It's just another touch point. Some people are way more receptive on LinkedIn than they are to cold email, even if it's the same messaging. We are finding very, very good success with automated LinkedIn messaging. So that would be your 4 steps. So you're getting 12 to 15 touch points once you include all 3 of these within a 3-week span. So really good strategy that we're using. I can give another tidbit as well, what we're doing here. If you find something, you can hire a VA to do the personalization for you for very, very cheap. So you can tell this VA, hey, go to this person's LinkedIn and write a quick sentence about something that they've accomplished in the past. So something on their profile, something from their website. So it's actually personalized. And then when you're doing the outreach through Instantly or LinkedIn, you can actually insert that variable of personalized one into it. And so it seems like it was actually a personalized message, but you really just had a VA do it. We just launched a campaign yesterday and we've already gotten 4 responses back from that. Because going back to your point, it looks like we actually did the research on them, but
right. Well, I want to bring something up. I mean, how smart do you think people are? I mean, we're watching this. Some of you might be watching on LinkedIn. I've gotten a lot of these DMs, and they might find something personalized from my profile, but a lot of them miss the mark too. I think some of that, it might be a language barrier if you have a VA from a different country. So I usually can kind of tell whether it's genuine or not. But my other question is, who is the one who's reaching out? Would it be your profile? Would it be
it's your profile?
Yeah, it would be from your profile. So then if somebody responds, are you the one responding and setting it up? Or
exactly,
okay. All right. So I could tell you that most of the times I can spot these from a mile away, and I kind of tend to go away. But every once in a while, somebody's got some really good copy, spent some time with a copywriter, and I'm like, that's interesting. So do you also because if these are people that you're not connected with, so this is an in-mail then, right? A LinkedIn mail, like it's not in your focused inbox. Is that correct?
So you can actually, through LinkedIn Helper, have it send a request first. So it actually does land up in your primary inbox and it doesn't come through like an in-mail.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because that's the other part where, I've had people reach out to connect and within 2 seconds, it's the auto like, hey,
That's the worst.
it's like,
I agree.
yeah. Okay. All right. So very, very good. So let's talk about, so if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, this is how Ryan has accomplished this. Now, I would like to say and think that since you're very young and whether you had some of that experience working for a bigger company, I think sometimes young people just don't know what they don't know. And you just went and started cold calling and you did it and it worked for you, right? And I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that is great. If you are a little bit older and you maybe further along in your career and you're stalled with your business, think about using this approach, this cold calling and cold DMing and cold emailing as a way to reach a larger audience. In the end, we all know sales is a number game, right?
For sure.
But it has to be the right qualified lead. So let's move on from this part. I would love to talk to you about launching this, right? So a lot of people get stuck. They have in their head, I have this business, I need clients. How did you validate that your idea was right? All you needed to do was clients, making sure there's a market for your service, and then you just went ahead. How did that thought process? Because there's also a lot of people out here that are serial entrepreneurs like you, but there's also people that just have had one idea and they want to grow, or they might have a second or third idea, but they haven't implemented it because they're worried about it. And they might be listening and saying, well, Ryan just did it. So why am I not doing it? Right. Yeah. So what made you just go ahead? What validated that first idea that you had?
Honestly, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and literally today I was speaking with someone 3 hours ago, and they're like, and it was about Spacebar Visuals, and they're like, what resources would you send my way? It's I want to start my company, and I just don't know where to get started. And it's just listen, I can send you all the podcasts, I can send you all the books that you want to launch a business. At the end of the day, if you're going to launch a business, you just have to do it. You just have to take that action. And it sounds so simple, and it is hard. That first step is so hard. There's so much friction there. But at the end of the day, the biggest difference between a wannabe-preneur and an actual entrepreneur is the entrepreneur actually just took action on it. So that's my advice to anyone that wants to start a business is oh, you might have an idea, but you don't actually have a business until you're generating revenue and until you're, building it and whatnot. But what validated our idea really is we identified that video is so hot. Companies want video. They just don't have, our ICP just doesn't have the time to do it. Marketers wear 30,000 different hats, and what we help is the script writing, the animation, the storyboard, the voiceover, everything that comes along with video. So our whole approach has been to make video super easy for the people that we're actually reaching out to. And I feel that resonates with the conversations. It does when people nodding their head, they're smiling.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So that's really what's validated our idea, and kind of basically implementing this 4-step process very early on is how we landed some of our very first clients. So identifying what your ICP wants and those needs and kind of delivering it is the best way we did it.
That's great. Yeah. I actually was going to ask you about your first client. How did that feel? How did that work?
Oh man.
Did you tell them they were your first client? How,
it was March 13th, 2023. So about a year and 4 months ago, whatnot at this point. Very clearly remember closing them. It was for a $7,500 deal. And what was crazy is that deal, that deal cycle, that sales cycle was literally 2 weeks. It was a week actually. We had a first call with them. They on a Thursday, and they signed that following Wednesday. And I remember thinking oh my gosh, this is a real thing. We just got paid $7,500 to do this. And then a week later, we signed another $7,500 deal. And that's when we were oh my God, we just closed $15,000 in sales here in our first month of selling, which is crazy to think about. I say this though, because then that April, May, and June, we closed zero business, literally zero business. So it's so funny. You come out of the gates firing with $15,000 closed, and then the next 3 months you do zero. So that's the joy of being a business owner.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's also when you keep going, there's a proven there's a proven system. Again,
Yeah.
that's a numbers game. That's a cool. Thank you for telling us that story. I think that resonates with a lot of us, right? We have these phases in our business. Business comes and goes, and sometimes, you get you put out five proposals and nobody bites, and then sometimes you put out 3 proposals and everybody wants your business, right? So then it can kind of get a little bit crazy like that. So as you went along and you got more and more clients, have you tweaked this 4-step system at all? Have you found, you kind of shared with us what you do now, I guess. Is that how you started, or is that kind of along the way? Have you adjusted anything?
It's a great question. Phenomenal question. We still do this 4-step process. Our messaging has been the only thing that has like really changed. Like, instead of always asking for a meeting after every email, we ask like, oh, could we send over like a few ideas for you based on your website, just to like test with the CTA? Because like our reply rates are around like 2 to 3%, which are like not great. They're not awful, but like, I don't know, there's definitely room for improvement, which is awesome. So we're just testing out like a different messaging. I would say that's like the biggest thing for us. But we have people that cold call. We send 20,000 emails a month at this point. And then we do LinkedIn messaging all the time. So it really hasn't changed, honestly.
That's great. So you must have a robust CRM. Are you using HubSpot to do this?
Yeah, we're using HubSpot. I will be coming from HubSpot. I'll be HubSpot through and through till I die.
Right. Okay. So no, I think that's really cool, because I think this is a tool that a lot of people know, a lot of marketers already work in. So if you're a marketer, you're in-house, you're thinking about starting your own business, maybe you have a specific specialty that you want to do on the side or start a side gig. If you're already using a robust tool like that, you know what it can do, and you know the sequencing and everything. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure other CRMs out there you can use, but I kind of like that. I figured that's what you would be using, so that's really good.
Great. We brought them on in like February of this year, so we've only been on it for like 5 or 6 months, but it's been great. I mean, we brought in a BDR, and it was a no-brainer to actually have like a CRM in place to stay organized, to stay on top of leads, to actually be able to predict what's going to close this year in like a very visual way. So HubSpot, I mean, it's an investment for sure, but it's well worth it for your sales team.
Yeah, I know any marketer out there that has worked in HubSpot, loves working in it. They might not like paying on their own, but if a big company that you work for, a big corporation or a large or small business, you understand the value of it, and then be doing that investment on your own. That's a little scary, but thank you for telling us that took you a little bit to get there, but now you're using it. That's awesome. So how about scaling, right? Scaling that revenue, 15,000 in the first month, then nothing for 3 months. You're scaling, right? So are there any systems, any processes you're implemented that were really helpful besides these 4 steps that you're like, oh, we saved so much time here? Are there any tools? AI, you must have had AI come right onto, right as you're launching this business. AI, if you're talking March 2023, AI was really coming out. Everybody was, doodling with ChatGPT initially, and then, Midjourney and other places. So what are you doing with AI? What tools? How are you scaling? And how are you, what are your plans for what's coming next?
Yeah. So specifically to the AI question, we use AI when we're doing our script writing. That's really the only time that we use AI though. So we'll have our scripters write the actual first pass of the script, and then they'll pass it through ChatGPT and like, oh, make this more energetic, make this better. Probably 75% of the time we don't actually use ChatGPT's recommendations here. It's just there. It should be a compliment. AI is 1,000% should be a compliment to your business. If you don't view AI as a compliment, then like you're kind of falling behind. So we definitely view it as a compliment. However, our video design team, that is all like human-led stuff. Like we don't use any AI tools, just because like, quite frankly, like they're not there yet. Like Sora, OpenAI is going to be insanely good, and it'll definitely, I'm sure it'll be part of every video team's workflow in the future, but it still has a long ways to go before it's actual like professional grade. Like, oh my gosh, this is super good. Like people can sniff out AI videos right now, and it's just like very off-putting. So
Well, not only can people sniff it out, the platforms do, right? I actually tested it. One of my clients, they were doing a bunch of frequently asked videos and they were very similar. They were short clips. So I took two and I took them to a tool that I use, CapCut, and I added some AI effects, did some cutting. They both were flagged on TikTok.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so all the other 12 frequently asked videos clips went through, those two got flagged, and
Oh, wow.
because they were AI manipulated. Now there were no AI robotic anything. It was just I cut them and added like some whoosh or a zoom in or like just
Yeah,
some things to cut to keep people's attention, and they were both flagged on TikTok. So
interesting.
definitely I can see where when you're creating video for your clients that
Yeah.
you definitely want to be careful. I know this is not a conversation about AI, but
Yeah.
certainly this is something that you have to be aware of. So now that you're have this offering, you're helping people with video marketing, do you have any goals to expand for growth? Where do you see yourself in a year or two? And with that, what can we and myself and our audience learn from your goal setting?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a huge fan of goal setting, both personally and professionally. I literally have like 5 goals like right here I look at like every day. And so, yeah, we definitely have plans to grow. My biggest thing as like a CEO, as a business owner, is like profitability at the end of the day is like our number one goal. We will not do something if we're not profitable doing it. You saw so many companies in like 2020 just grow, and their profits were like very negative. So my biggest goal as a CEO is definitely like profits. We are, and like having healthy margins on all of our videos, being able to negotiate that. That's like my biggest thing as like a CEO, is like that I take pride in. Over the next like year, like we definitely want to keep expanding our customer base. We want to keep acquiring new clients. We have some pretty lofty revenue goals that we're going after. How we go after those, and like all of our goals is on our weekly calls. We actually go over like our micro goals. And so before every quarter, we just did it this week, actually, we set out, okay, what do we want our goals to be in July, August, and September from like a revenue perspective, from an email sends perspective, from a pipeline creation perspective, and then reviewing those goals weekly about like, okay, how can we move towards these goals every week has been super beneficial for us. So our goals are to revenue goals, lofty revenue goals, expand our customer base, keep serving clients, keep them very, very happy. We have some amazing customers who are happy to work with us. And then what you guys can learn from that is just review those goals weekly with your teams and what action items you need to put in place to actually get there.
I love that you mentioned retention, because that I think is especially with younger companies, a lot of people just are focusing on the new clients and not on keeping existing clients happy or current, or even just keeping them, right? We all know, if you haven't heard this, it's 5 times as expensive to acquire a new client than to keep one. So I love that you are serving your clients and they're happy, and that they're happy. You still want new clients, but that you're putting focus on the retention of the clients that you have.
Yeah. When I was at HubSpot, actually, we had an all hands meeting, and it was Yamini was the CEO at the time. She just took over for Brian Halligan. And I remember her specifically saying like how we're going to go from whatever, like 50 billion in revenue, whatever I actually have no idea, from like 50 billion revenue to like 150 billion in revenue is through new business, of course, but actually through our existing customer base and upselling them to actually grow that. And that might be like the only thing that I remember her like actually saying to us. And so literally I just had a call with someone today that like they had a 2-video package with them, and I called them today. I was like, hey, like, can we get something done by end of the month here, end of the quarter here? Like, we'll give you like a $500 off to get going, but you need to sign by now. So it's looking at your existing customer base and how you can upsell them and continue to work with them. But to your point, I feel like a lot of companies only look for new business. You just look for existing.
Right. Exactly. All right. Okay, Ryan, we are at the end. Where can people connect with you? Where can you today check out your business, Spacebar Visuals? And where's the best place to meet you online?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can just go to www.spacebarvisuals.com to check out like our portfolio there, to check out just what we do. If you guys want to connect with me on LinkedIn, just Ryan Atkinson, CEO of Spacebar Visuals. There should only be one, hopefully. So you guys can connect with me there. And yeah, definitely feel free to ask any questions. I'm happy to expand on anything that you have.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. Thank you to those of you who stayed all the way to the end, who listened as a podcast all the way to the end. And I appreciate you being here. I'll be back next week with another episode of Strategy Talks. And thank you, Ryan, so much for your time today.
Thank you. This was awesome. Great job.